AITA for canceling our family vacation after my wife mocked me at our anniversary dinner? I'm Logan, 38, and I had been married to Brooke for 9 years when this happened. For most of our marriage, I thought being the steady one meant keeping arguments small, paying bills on time, and not turning every request from her family into a courtroom debate. I was the person who checked a restaurant receipt before signing it, made sure the car had gas before a road trip, and remembered which day the mortgage cleared. Brooke used to call me reliable. Somewhere along the way, she started calling the same habits controlling whenever I stopped saying yes. That change did not happen overnight. When I first met Brooke, one of the things I loved about her was how warm she could make ordinary moments feel. She would turn a Tuesday night into a reason to open a bottle of wine. She remembered people's birthdays without reminders. She could walk into a room full of relatives and make everyone feel as though the night had only started after she arrived. Her family was loud, close, and always in one another's business. I came from a much quieter family, so at first, I found it refreshing. Nobody waited for formal invitations. Someone was always dropping off food, borrowing a folding table, asking for a ride, or announcing a last-minute dinner. Helping them occasionally seemed like part of being married. The problem was that occasional became constant so gradually that I didn't notice the line moving. It started with small things. Brooke's brother Caleb would forget his wallet at dinner and promise to send me money the next Friday. Her mother, Diane, would need help with a medical copay and say she hated asking, even though Brooke had already told her I would cover it. A cousin needed a birthday deposit. An aunt needed a hotel room booked before a rate disappeared. Someone else needed a restaurant reservation placed on a card. Every request came wrapped in urgency and family loyalty. Don't make money weird, Brooke would say whenever I asked for details. Diane's version was, good husbands don't nickel and dime family. Caleb usually went with, I'll get you back next Friday, man. Promise. Next Friday never arrived. I kept telling myself none of the amounts were large enough to start a war over. A few $100s here, a dinner bill there, a car repair that became a loan without paperwork, a weekend rental deposit that Brooke said everyone would split later. I also told myself I was choosing peace. Looking back, I was choosing silence because silence was easier in the moment. Brooke understood that about me before I did. Our 9th anniversary dinner was supposed to be simple. Brooke had made a reservation at a restaurant we both liked, and then told me her mother and brother wanted to stop by for dessert. By the time we arrived, stopping by had turned into a long table with Diane, Caleb, 2 cousins, Brooke's friend Jenna, and several others already seated. I should have known then that the evening was not really about us. There were champagne glasses at every place setting. A shared appetizer had already been ordered. Brooke kissed me on the cheek and said, surprise. Everyone wanted to celebrate us. The reservation was under her name. The deposit had been charged to my card. I knew because I got an alert while we were walking from the parking lot. I didn't say anything. I decided I would ask her about it later. Dinner itself was fine at first. Brooke told stories from our early years together. Diane talked about the wedding. Jenna asked us what our secret was for lasting 9 years, and Brooke smiled across the table at me. Patience, she said. I thought she meant both of us. Then the conversation turned to the appetizer bill. Caleb joked that my card should get its own share because it attended more family events than I did. A few people laughed. I smiled politely and changed the subject. That should have been the end of it. Instead, after dessert arrived, Brooke stood and tapped her spoon against her glass. Everyone quieted down. She started with the kind of things I expected. She said I was dependable, that I had been beside her through stressful years, and that I made sure our life never came apart at the seams. Then she tilted her head and smiled in the way she did when she wanted the room on her side. And let's be honest, she said. He's lucky that wallet is big enough to make up for his personality. The table erupted. Not nervous laughter. Not 2 people chuckling because they didn't know what else to do. They laughed like she had delivered the line of the night. Caleb slapped the table. At least he knows his role, he said. Diane lifted her glass toward Brooke. You trained him well. Brooke laughed with them. I looked at her and waited. That was the moment she could have stopped it. She could have said they were taking it too far. She could have touched my hand and made it clear I was not the punchline. Instead, she looked at my face and rolled her eyes. Don't make that face, she said. It's a joke. My first instinct was to say something cruel enough to silence the whole table. I had plenty of material. I knew how much Caleb owed me. I knew Diane had called Brooke 3 days earlier because she couldn't cover a bill. I knew the anniversary dinner deposit, the champagne, and the shared dessert were all attached to my card. But I also knew that if I exploded, the story would become my reaction instead of what they had done. So I took one slow breath, folded my napkin, and set it beside my plate. Then I guess the joke can pay for itself tonight, I said. Brooke's smile disappeared. I stood, thanked the server, and left. My phone started buzzing before I reached the sidewalk. Brooke called once, then again. By the time my rideshare arrived, I had 6 missed calls and 3 texts. Are you seriously doing this right now? You are embarrassing me. Come back inside and stop being dramatic. I watched the restaurant through the car window as we pulled away. My hands didn't start shaking until I was alone in the back seat. 20 minutes later, the missed call count had reached 14. Then came the voicemail. You made me look insane, Brooke said. Her voice was low and angry, the way it got when she was trying not to let other people hear. Everyone is sitting here asking what is wrong with you. This was supposed to be our anniversary, and you turned it into a scene. Call me back. I saved the voicemail. At the time, I didn't know why. I just knew I didn't want to hear later that she had apologized when she hadn't. When I got home, the house was quiet. I took off my jacket, poured a glass of water, and sat at the kitchen counter. There was an unopened takeout box in the refrigerator from the night before. I heated it up, took 2 bites, and gave up. Brooke came home almost an hour later. She was still wearing the dress she had chosen for dinner. Her heels hit the floor hard as she walked into the kitchen. What the hell was that? She asked. I looked at her. You laughed while your family called me trained. It was a joke. It was our anniversary. Exactly. And you walked out. After you called me a wallet with a bad personality. She tossed her purse onto the counter. You are acting like I stood up and gave a financial report. It was one line. Everyone knew I was joking. Did they? Caleb said I knew my role. Your mother said you trained me. They were playing along. And what were you doing? She stared at me for a second, then crossed her arms. You always do this, she said. You make money the center of everything. That answer landed harder than the joke. I didn't bring up money tonight, I said. You did. Because you have been weird about it lately. Asking what I'm paying for is weird. This is what I mean. You can't let anything be easy. I wanted to ask whether humiliating me was her definition of easy, but I could feel the argument turning in circles. Brooke wasn't trying to understand why I was hurt. She was trying to prove I had no right to be hurt. So I stopped. I'm not discussing this while you are more upset about the room than about what happened in it, I said. She laughed once, without humor. There. That tone. That is exactly why people think you are controlling. Then she went upstairs and shut the bedroom door. I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I woke to texts from Diane and Caleb. Diane wrote, a loving husband does not abandon his wife in front of family. Marriage is not about keeping score, Logan. Caleb wrote, you proved Brooke right last night. Learn to take a joke. Nobody asked if I was okay. I was making coffee when my phone gave a different alert. This one was from the bank. A large charge from a vacation rental company was scheduled to process in 3 days. The amount was $8,460. I stared at it long enough for the screen to dim. I knew there was a family trip being discussed. Brooke had mentioned a rental house several times over the previous month. She told me everyone was contributing and that she wanted to give her mother something special for her birthday. I had agreed to cover our portion and possibly help Diane with part of hers. I had not agreed to cover nearly $9,000. I searched my email and found the confirmation buried under promotional messages. The reservation was for a large house with enough bedrooms for Brooke's extended family. My card was listed as the primary payment method. The initial deposit had already been charged weeks earlier. The remaining balance was due soon, and the cancellation window closed the next day. The email also showed the reservation contact. Brooke. I read the full confirmation twice. My card wasn't being used for our portion. It was securing almost the entire trip. I could hear Brooke moving around upstairs. My first thought was to storm into the bedroom and hold the phone in front of her face. Instead, I put on shoes, walked outside, and called Owen. Owen had been my closest friend since before I met Brooke. He was not the kind of person who automatically told me I was right. That was why I called him. He answered on the 3rd ring. You sound bad, he said after I told him what happened at dinner. I found a vacation charge for more than $8,000. Did you authorize it? Not that amount. Is it pending or completed? Pending. Cancellation deadline is tomorrow. He was quiet for a few seconds. Don't confront her yet, he said. Why not? Because she already has a story about you. If you go upstairs yelling about money, she gets to point at you and say, see? So I just let it process. No. You document everything. Pull statements. Screenshot messages. Find out what she told everyone and what she told you. Then cancel anything you didn't agree to. I paced along the edge of the driveway. This feels ridiculous. We are married. I should be able to ask my wife why my card is on a vacation. You should, Owen said. But you are not dealing with a normal disagreement. She humiliated you in public, blamed you in private, and now you found a major charge. Don't give them a meltdown they can use. Give them dates, amounts, and silence. I leaned against the car. I hate that this sounds like preparing for court. Then make sure it never needs to become one. But prepare anyway. After we hung up, I sat in the parked car for several minutes. I kept thinking about the word Brooke had used the night before. Controlling. It wasn't the first time she had said it, but it was the first time I heard it as more than an insult. I called my younger sister Rachel during lunch. She listened without interrupting until I told her about the rental. How much has her family borrowed from you? She asked. I don't know exactly. That is not like you. I stopped tracking it because Brooke said it made things transactional. Rachel let out a slow breath. You stopped tracking it because she taught you that asking questions made you the bad guy. I was trying to keep the peace. No, she said. You keep calling it peace because that sounds better than admitting she has been using you. I didn't answer. Her voice softened. Being calm is good. Letting people step on you quietly is not the same thing. That afternoon, I started looking. I downloaded 2 years of card statements. I went through transfers, payment apps, and old emails. I searched my messages for Caleb's name, Diane's name, and the words rental, deposit, cover, and pay you back. The total was worse than I expected. There was Caleb's $2,300 car repair, labeled in a payment request as car thing. He had repaid $200. There were 6 dinners where Brooke told me someone would reimburse us. Nobody had. There was a $1,100 medical payment for Diane, which I had agreed was a gift. I didn't resent that one. What bothered me was finding a text from Diane a month later saying, "Family takes care of family," after I declined to pay for a weekend spa trip. There were birthday deposits, hotel rooms, groceries, tickets, and a holiday rental. None of those expenses by themselves would have ended my marriage. The pattern was the problem. Every time I had asked for clarity, Brooke had answered as though the question itself was an offense. That evening, I tried one more time to talk to her. She was standing at the kitchen counter scrolling through her phone while pasta boiled on the stove. Did you put the vacation rental on my card? I asked. She didn't look up. I told you about the trip. You told me we were paying our share and helping your mother. It is easier to put it on one card and sort it out later. The balance is more than $8,000. She finally looked at me. You don't have to say it like that. Like what? Like I stole from you. Did everyone agree to repay their share? Yes. Mostly. What does mostly mean? She turned back toward the stove. It means I don't have every conversation in writing, Logan. Normal families don't draft contracts for vacations. When were you planning to explain the amount? I was going to handle it. With my card. Our card. It is a personal card in my name. You are an authorized user for household expenses. She set the spoon down harder than necessary. There it is again. Your card. My family. Your money. You make everything sound divided. Because you are volunteering money without asking me. I knew you would make this weird. She walked out of the kitchen, leaving the sauce simmering. Her phone stayed on the counter. I didn't pick it up. I didn't know her passcode, and I had no interest in digging through private conversations for gossip. Then the screen lit up. A message preview appeared under Diane's name. Did he say yes yet? Beneath it was the visible beginning of Brooke's reply, which had apparently been sent seconds earlier from her watch or another connected device. Don't worry. If he says no again, I'll tell him Mom thinks he's financially abusive. He hates looking bad. For a moment, I could hear nothing except the bubbling pot behind me. I read the preview again. Financially abusive. Not careless. Not cheap. Not difficult. Abusive. And she was talking about using that accusation as leverage because she knew I cared about how I treated people. Brooke came back into the kitchen and picked up her phone. She saw my face. What? She asked. I looked at her phone, then at her. Nothing, I said. That was the moment something changed in me. Not because I stopped loving her. I didn't. Love doesn't shut off cleanly just because someone reveals an ugly part of themselves. But I stopped assuming every conflict was a misunderstanding. After Brooke went upstairs, I searched only my own phone. The evidence was already there. Please just pay Caleb this time. Don't say it came from you. Caleb gets weird about money. Let me tell Mom I handled it. It keeps the peace. If you argue about the rental, they will think you are punishing me. Can you put it on your card for now? I already told everyone it was covered. I had read all of those messages before. At the time, each one had felt like a small request from my wife. Together, they formed a system. I paid. Brooke took credit. Her family saw her as generous. If I objected, she portrayed me as controlling. If I stayed quiet, the next request became easier. The next morning, I started separating facts from feelings. I changed the passwords on my personal banking and credit accounts. I removed saved card information from merchants I didn't recognize. I called the bank and asked which recurring charges and authorized users were attached to each account. I didn't empty the joint checking account. I didn't touch the money set aside for the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, or shared obligations. I moved my future income into a separate personal account and left enough in the joint account to cover our agreed household expenses. Then I called the rental company. I explained that my card had been placed on the reservation for a balance I had not authorized. The representative confirmed that I could remove my payment method before the cancellation deadline. Because Brooke was the reservation contact, the booking itself would remain active if she provided another card. I asked for that in writing. 10 minutes later, I received an email confirming that my card would not be charged for the remaining balance and that I was no longer financially responsible for the reservation. I saved the email and printed a copy. Then I sent Brooke one message. Household bills will be covered. Your family's extra expenses will not. I removed my card from the vacation rental because I did not agree to pay that balance. She called immediately. I let it ring. She called again. Then the text started. You canceled Mom's birthday trip? Do you understand how humiliating this is? People already took time off. Call me now. I waited until I was calm enough to respond. I did not cancel the reservation. I removed my card. Anyone who wants the trip can pay the balance. Her reply came almost instantly. You are punishing my entire family because your ego got hurt at dinner. I typed several answers and deleted them. Finally, I sent one sentence. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm letting the people who laughed at my wallet use theirs. Brooke didn't come home until late that night. When she walked in, she had her phone in one hand and a printed copy of the rental email in the other. The rental office called me 3 times, she said. Then you know the reservation is still available. The balance is due. Yes. I don't have that kind of money sitting around. Then you should not have presented it as your gift. Her face changed. Who told you I said that? That question confirmed more than she realized. So you did. I was organizing it. With my money. Our money. You were not calling it our gift. You were telling people you handled it and hiding that I paid. She looked away. That is not what this is about. Then what is it about? It is about you trying to make me look bad in front of my family. I almost laughed. You stood up at our anniversary dinner and made me the family wallet. It was a joke, and I stopped underwriting it. She pressed her lips together. My mother is devastated. Your mother can still go. She needs to pay for her room. Caleb says he never agreed to cover a share. Then why was his name on the guest list? Because he is family. Being family does not make his portion mine. She stared at me for several seconds. You really are keeping score now. No, I am finally reading the bill. She slept in the bedroom. I stayed in the guest room again. Over the next 2 days, the family pressure increased. Diane sent 3 messages. The first said family takes care of family. The second said Brooke was crying and I needed to act like a husband. The third warned me that financial control was a form of abuse. That last message made my hands go cold. This time, I didn't argue. I took a screenshot. Caleb sent a voice message calling me petty and saying nobody asked me to sponsor the Olympics. I replied with a screenshot of the transfer for his car repair in one sentence. You still owe $2,100 from the amount you promised to repay last year. Then he wrote, that has nothing to do with this. I replied, it has everything to do with why I am not covering another expense. After that, he stopped messaging me. I also sent individual messages to the people whose expenses I had covered. I did not start a family-wide group chat. I did not insult anyone. I did not post anything online. Each message was short. For clarity, this is the amount requested, the date it was paid, and whether repayment was received. Some people responded with confusion. A cousin said Brooke had told her the hotel room was a gift from Brooke. Another relative said she thought Brooke had paid the restaurant deposit herself. One person immediately sent me half of what she owed with an apology. Most stayed quiet. Jenna texted me the day after the rental payment failed. Can I ask you something without this becoming a fight? I told her yes. She called instead of texting. Brooke told me you make her ask permission to buy groceries, she said. I was standing in the kitchen when she said it. I looked at the shared checking account open on my laptop, where regular household expenses were still being paid as usual. That is not true, I said. She said you question every family gift and make her justify normal spending. I question charges of several hundred or several $1,000s that she puts on my personal card without discussing them. Jenna was quiet. She made it sound like you give her an allowance. She has her own income and full access to our joint account. I moved my future deposits after I found the vacation charge. The mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, and shared bills are still covered. That is not what she told me. Not even close. I sent Jenna 3 screenshots. One was Brooke asking me to pay Caleb and hide that it came from me. One was Brooke asking me to put the rental on my card because she had already told everyone it was covered. The third was Diane's message accusing me of abuse after I removed my card from the vacation. Jenna called back 5 minutes later. I owe you an apology, she said. You believed your friend. I believed gossip because it was easier than asking whether it made sense. She sounded embarrassed. Are you leaving her? I don't know yet. That was the truth. By then, I had already scheduled a consultation with a family attorney. I did not tell Brooke. I was not planning to file immediately, but once she started using the language of financial abuse as a pressure tactic, I needed to understand how to protect myself. The attorney told me to keep records, avoid retaliatory spending, continue meeting shared obligations, and document any false accusations that could affect a separation or financial negotiation. That was exactly what I had been doing. Brooke noticed that I was no longer reacting the way she expected. She tried anger first. Then she tried affection. One night she sat beside me on the couch and rested her head against my shoulder as though we had simply had a rough week. I miss us, she said. So do I. Then why are you doing this? Because us cannot mean I pay for everyone while you call me controlling for asking questions. She sat up. I said I was sorry about the joke. No, you said you were sorry I took it badly. Is there a difference? Yes. Her expression hardened. You are impossible when you get like this. When I get like what? Cold. Legal. Like everything is evidence. You threatened to call me financially abusive because you thought the accusation would make me pay. She froze. It was the first time I had said out loud that I saw the message. You read my phone. A preview appeared on the lock screen while it was sitting on the counter. I did not open anything. That was a private conversation with my mother. It was a plan to accuse me of abuse. I was venting. You were describing a tactic. You were twisting it. Then explain what it meant. She opened her mouth, stopped, and looked away. I knew you would not want Mom thinking that, she said finally. Exactly. Because you are not abusive. Then why use the word? I was frustrated. You were willing to damage my character to get access to my money. She stood up. I can't talk to you when you make everything sound so ugly. It is ugly. That is why you don't want to hear it clearly. 2 days later, Brooke told me she wanted to have a family meeting. Her message said, we need to talk like adults. Everyone is confused, and I want this resolved without more private accusations. I knew it was an ambush before I arrived. Brooke had asked me to meet at Diane's house, but when I got there, Diane, Caleb, Jenna, 2 cousins, an aunt, and 3 other relatives were already in the living room. Diane sat in the middle of the couch with her hands folded like a judge. Caleb was leaning against the wall with a smirk. Brooke stood near the coffee table. I want everyone to hear this so nobody twists it later, she said. I was carrying a thin folder. That works for me, I said. Her eyes dropped to the folder, but she kept going. Logan has decided to punish my family because he was embarrassed by a joke at dinner. He walked out on our anniversary, canceled Mom's birthday trip, cut me off financially, and started sending people lists of what they owe him. I did not cut you off, I said. Please let me finish. I nodded. She continued, describing me as angry, secretive, and obsessed with control. She said I had moved money without warning and left her scrambling to cover normal expenses. Diane shook her head slowly. A husband who loves his wife does not embarrass her over money, she said. Marriage is not supposed to be a spreadsheet, Logan. Caleb crossed his arms. You proved exactly what she has been saying about you. What has she been saying? I asked. That you use money to control her. Brooke wiped under one eye, though I had not seen any tears. I never wanted this to become public, she said. That was when Jenna looked down at the floor. I placed the folder on the coffee table. Before everyone votes on my character, I said, you should know what you were actually voting on. Caleb laughed. What is that? Your little audit. Part of it. I opened the folder. The first page was a 2-year summary of expenses I had paid for Brooke's family. I had not included ordinary gifts, shared meals I volunteered to cover, or anything Brooke and I had clearly agreed on. I included only the expenses presented as loans, reimbursements, shared costs, or last-minute emergencies. The total was just over $31,000. That did not include the vacation balance. I handed Diane a copy. She looked at the first page and frowned. This is in poor taste, she said. Which amount is wrong? That is not the point. It is one of the points. I handed Caleb the page showing his car repair, 2 cash transfers, and 3 restaurant tabs he had promised to repay. His smirk disappeared. Some of this was family stuff, he said. You wrote that you would repay it. Those messages are attached. He flipped the page and saw his own words printed beneath the transactions. I'll hit you back next Friday, promise. Don't tell Brooke, I asked again. She gets dramatic. You're good for it, right? Caleb looked up. You printed private texts? You used those texts to get money from me. Brooke stepped forward. This is exactly what I mean. You are keeping score. I looked at her. You turned my marriage into a bill I wasn't allowed to read. The room went quiet. I placed the vacation confirmation on the table. Brooke told me we were paying our portion and helping Diane. My card was listed for almost the entire remaining balance. Brooke had already told people the trip was her gift. One of the cousins looked at Brooke. You said you had been saving for it. Brooke's face tightened. I was handling the booking. Who was actually paying for the rental? The cousin asked. That is not the point, Brooke said. It became the point when I was mocked for paying it. I said. I handed out screenshots of messages Brooke had sent me. Please just pay Caleb this time. Don't say it came from you. Let me tell Mom I handled it. Can you put it on your card for now? I already told everyone it was covered. The aunt read them twice. Diane shifted on the couch. Brooke was trying to keep family peace, she said, by hiding who paid. People can be proud about money. Caleb's pride did not stop him from asking for it. Caleb pushed away from the wall. Leave me out of your marriage problems. You inserted yourself when you called me a walking card and expected me to cover your portion of the trip. I never agreed to pay a portion. Then you never should have agreed to go. He opened his mouth, but Diane spoke over him. Logan, none of this excuse is walking out on your wife. I reached into the folder and removed the final page. No, I said. This explains why I stopped paying. This is why I am considering whether the marriage can continue. I placed the screenshot of Brooke's message on the table. Don't worry. If he says no again, I'll tell him Mom thinks he's financially abusive. He hates looking bad. Diane read it first. Her face changed. Brooke reached for the paper, but Jenna picked it up before she could. You told me he made you ask permission for groceries, Jenna said. Brooke stared at her. This is not the same thing. You told me he controlled every dollar. He does. Look at all this. Jenna held up the screenshot. This says you planned to use an abuse accusation because you thought he would cave. I was venting to my mother. You were not venting, I said. You were explaining how to pressure me. Diane handed the page back as though touching it had become uncomfortable. It was a misunderstanding, she said. I looked at her. Which part is fake? She said nothing. Is the message fake? Silence. Are the charges fake? Nothing. Did you send me a message saying financial control was abuse after I removed my card from a vacation I never agreed to fund? Diane's mouth tightened. I was protecting my daughter. From having to pay for her own promise? Brooke's voice rose. You are humiliating me in front of everyone. I kept my voice level. You made this public when you used an audience to humiliate me. You do not get public laughter and private truth. One of the relatives asked Brooke why she had claimed the trip was her gift if the money was coming from me. Another asked whether the dinner had also been charged to my card. Brooke looked around the room and realized the pressure had shifted. You are all missing the point, she said. This is about how he reacts when I make one mistake. It was not one mistake, Jenna said quietly. Brooke turned on her. Whose side are you on? Jenna flinched, then straightened. The side where people don't accuse their spouse of abuse to win an argument. Caleb started gathering the pages in front of him. This whole thing is ridiculous, he said. I am leaving. You still owe me $2,100, I said. He looked at me with open anger. Sue me. I have not threatened to. I am telling you there will be no more money. He muttered something under his breath and walked out. Diane stood next. I hope you are proud of yourself, she said. I am not proud that it reached this point. You have damaged this family. No, I stopped financing the damage. Brooke folded her arms. So what now? You came here with your little folder. What do you want? I want the truth to stop being negotiable. That is not an answer. Then here is the answer. I will cover my responsibilities. I will not fund your family's image of you. I will not put personal cards under your control. I will not pay for requests that are hidden, rushed, or presented as emergencies after you already promised the money. She stared at me. And our marriage? If it continues, we go to counseling. We have full financial transparency. You apologize in front of the people who heard you humiliate me. You tell the same people that I did not restrict groceries or household needs. And you never use the phrase financially abusive as a weapon again. Diane made a sharp sound. You can't threaten her into an apology. I am not threatening her. I am describing the conditions under which I am willing to remain in the marriage. Brooke's face went pale. And if I don't agree, I will speak to a family attorney and protect myself. You already spoke to one, didn't you? I did not answer immediately. Yes. The room went still again. Brooke looked as though I had slapped her. You talked to a divorce lawyer without telling me? I talked to an attorney after discovering that my wife planned to call me abusive to make me pay for her family's vacation. So you are leaving me. I am deciding whether you are willing to stop doing what brought us here. Nobody had a response to that. I collected the original documents, left copies where I intended, and walked out. The vacation fell apart over the next week. The rental company called Brooke repeatedly for a replacement payment method. One afternoon, she answered while her phone was on speaker in the kitchen. We need the remaining balance by 5 o'clock today, the representative said. Otherwise, the reservation will be released. Brooke looked at me across the counter. I continued washing a plate. Can you extend it until Friday? She asked. The representative said they had already extended it once. After the call ended, Brooke set her phone down. Caleb refuses to pay anything unless everyone else pays first. That sounds like Caleb. Mom says she thought you would calm down and handle it. That sounds like Diane. Do you enjoy this? I turned off the faucet. No. You look calm. Calm is not the same as happy. You could fix this in 2 minutes. So could everyone who planned to go. They don't have the money. Then the trip was never affordable. She looked at me with the same expression she had worn in the living room, caught between anger and disbelief. I really thought you would pay, she said. It was the most honest thing she had said since the dinner. I know, I replied. That is exactly the problem. The reservation was released that evening. Caleb blamed me. Diane blamed the rental company. 2 relatives claimed they had never realized the trip depended on one person's card. One cousin quietly thanked me because she had been worried about paying for food and activities after arriving. There was no perfect wave of apologies. Some people protected their pride by staying silent. A few acted as though the entire situation was too complicated to judge. Diane stopped sending guilt messages after I replied to one of them with a screenshot of her previous accusation and wrote, I am documenting all claims that I am abusive. Please do not repeat statements you cannot support. She did not respond. Caleb sent one final message calling me pathetic. I replied with the date and amount of his unpaid car repair loan. He blocked me. Jenna apologized to me in person. She did not ask me to forgive Brooke, and she did not try to explain the lies away. I should have questioned it, she said. She made you sound like someone you are not. She knew which words would make people stop asking questions. Jenna nodded. I told her I will not repeat that story for her again. That mattered more than a dramatic public apology. Brooke and I began counseling 2 weeks later. The first session was rough. She spent much of it saying she felt exposed, watched, and punished. I admitted that I had stayed quiet for too long and then changed several financial arrangements quickly. I also explained why I had done it and showed that every shared bill remained funded. The counselor asked Brooke a simple question. Why did you want your family to believe you were paying? Brooke answered around it for several minutes. She said she liked helping people. She said her mother had always praised generosity. She said Caleb got defensive if he felt indebted to me. She said it was easier if the money appeared to come from her. The counselor asked again, why did it matter that they thought it came from you? Brooke stared at the floor. Because they saw me as the fun one, she said finally. The easy one. The person who could make things happen. And who paid the cost of that image? The counselor asked. Brooke looked at me. Logan. It was not an apology, but it was the first time she named the truth without trying to soften it. The direct apology came later. Brooke invited the people who had been at the anniversary dinner to our house. Not everyone came. Caleb did not. Diane arrived late and sat stiffly at the end of the couch. Jenna was there, along with 2 cousins and the aunt who had questioned the vacation payment. Brooke stood in the living room without a glass in her hand and without the bright, social smile she usually used. What I said at dinner was cruel, she told them. It was not just a joke. I had been letting people believe I paid for things that Logan actually covered. When he asked questions, I told some of you he was controlling. I also said things about groceries and family gifts that were not true. Diane looked away. Brooke continued. He did not cut off our household expenses. He stopped paying for commitments I made without his agreement. I used the idea of financial abuse to pressure him, and that was wrong. Nobody clapped. Nobody gave a speech. The room was uncomfortable, which was appropriate. One cousin apologized to me directly. The aunt said she had laughed at dinner without knowing the truth and regretted it. Diane said nothing until she was leaving. At the door, she turned to me. I still think you could have handled the trip differently, she said. I think Brooke could have asked before promising my money. Diane pursed her lips. Families forgive. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. She left without answering. Brooke and I did not go back to the old arrangement. Our joint account remained limited to household expenses. We each kept personal accounts. Any shared purchase above an agreed amount required both of us to approve it. Brooke lost access to my personal cards, not as a punishment, but because she had used them beyond what I authorized. She began paying back part of the money used for her family's expenses from her personal account. I did not demand repayment for every dinner or gift. That was never the point. I wanted responsibility attached to decisions. Caleb never repaid the car repair loan. I stopped expecting him to. The cost of that lesson was fixed. The important part was that it did not grow. Diane kept her distance for several months. When she eventually asked Brooke for help with another expense, Brooke told her she could contribute a specific amount from her own account, but would not ask me to cover the rest. Diane called that selfish. Brooke did not pass the accusation on to me. She said no and let the silence stand. That was one of the first signs that counseling might be changing something real. Our marriage did not heal in one dramatic scene. Some days Brooke still acted as though my boundaries were a rejection of her. Some days I caught myself checking every detail because trust had become difficult. We argued about privacy, shame, loyalty, and what partnership was supposed to mean. I also had to admit my part in allowing the pattern to grow. I had believed that avoiding conflict made me mature. Sometimes it did. Other times it made me useful to people who counted on me not speaking. I had told myself that a good husband absorbed pressure quietly. Brooke had learned to turn that silence into a resource. Whether our marriage lasts permanently is still tied to what we do with the truth now, not what either of us promises in one emotional conversation. I have not filed for divorce. I have also not withdrawn the option from my mind. Brooke knows that another false accusation, another hidden financial commitment, or another public humiliation will end the marriage. She knows I will not debate whether I am allowed to have a boundary. The strangest part is that the people who called me cold became much more careful once they realized the money had stopped. Invitations changed. Requests became specific. Emergencies became less frequent. Caleb found other solutions when I was no longer one of them. It turned out that a large part of the family's closeness depended on my willingness to cover the gap between what they wanted and what they could afford. I still love my wife. That did not disappear at the restaurant table, during the rental calls, or in her mother's living room. But love was never supposed to require me to finance a version of myself that everyone was allowed to mock. I didn't stop loving my wife that night. I stopped paying to be disrespected. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.